you have to understand that Trump doesn't care about anything but himself. Trump loves humiliating. I think he likes to get Mike Johnson and Lindsey Graham in there and just slap them around. I think he enjoys it. And maybe they enjoy it too, for all I know.
I'm Joanna Coles. This is the Daily Beast podcast, and today we are back with James Carville. There is almost nobody who has a better turn of phrase, and he comes up with two fantastic ones in this interview. He wrote last week an excellent column for the New York Times, and I'm going to just read 3 lines from it. The era of performative woke politics from 2020 to 2024 has left a lasting stain on our brand, particularly with rural voters and male voters. And then he says, we can no longer be the party with a whiff of moral absolutism. We can correct this only by looking toward the future, always in every situation possible, and pivoting to a form of economic rage as our response. This offers Democrats the greatest gift you can have in American politics, a second chance. So let's find out exactly what he meant by that. James Carville, let's get into it. James, you are predicting a whiff of the French Revolution in America in an excellent column that you wrote in the New York Times in the last couple of days. What do you mean? What do you mean? How bad is it?
Well, what's happened is we have just inequalities or discrepancies or whatever you want to call it. And about 45% of the country can't pay any bills. Young people see no future. They can't imagine themselves ever buying a house. They can't imagine themselves ever affording an education. Meanwhile, savers and old people have just run off with the whole stack. And look at what we just did. We just added another $4 trillion in debt. We just gave more tax cuts to more rich people. We cut substantive things that matter to people all over the country, like rural hospitals, small town hospitals. Whether will we do it? And the young people are going to see us, and they're going to figure out that, hey, these people stole everything from us, so let's go get our fair share. And that's how unrest starts. And the best thing to do is get ahead of it and try to even this thing out a little bit.
Do you sense that Donald Trump, having won, every single swing state, is actually somewhat more vulnerable than we might have anticipated this early into his administration?
Well, let's look at the election that was held. I guess, are we still in November?
No, it's the 1st of December, James. Happy winter.
Less than a month ago, there was an election that was beyond conclusive. It was stunning. It was stunning not just in the depth, but the breadth of it. I mean, wherever it was, if it was Mississippi or Virginia or New Jersey or Georgia, it was all the same thing. And, as we speak now, there's this Tennessee district that's up special on, going to be the 2nd. And Trump carried that district by 22 points. His polling is now at an all-time low. I just saw Gallup. He's at 36. How about much lower you can go? I think his presidency, in terms of getting anything significantly done, is over. He's got to definitely deal with the Democratic House. I think it's more likely he should be dealing with a Democratic Senate.
So today is the first day when people can enroll in Obamacare, and they will see their health premiums going up substantially, often double, in some cases treble. Do you think that is going to be a new tipping point for people? I mean, it impacts 23 million people.
Of course it is. And what's also going up is electricity costs going up. It's like 21% higher than the inflation rate. So you got to deal with that, and insurance costs, and God knows what. No, people are not going to be able to afford it. The people that were on the exchange, you hear real life bar stories and people like, I was paying $450 a year, and I'm going to pay $2,200 a year. I just can't afford it, and that's very common. And these notices are going out as we're speaking, and it's going to. We hadn't begun to feel the real effect of this.
So You mentioned the idea of economic rage, and the Oxford Dictionary has just released its word of the year, which is rage bait. As usual, you're right on the money. What exactly did you mean by that, and how can people display it?
Well, what it means, what I alert to, there's been a tremendous amount of generational theft from people my generation, even generation after me, to the current young people, and they're going to figure it out. And the rage is what is our adjusted now, like $38 trillion, $39 trillion, and they got nothing. They got nothing. They can't buy a house. I mean, in everything, our entire tax code is tilted toward savers, is tilted toward. You know, the way I describe it is there's two kinds of people in the world: those that have it made. They have a savings account, they own their house, they have money in the bank, and they have health insurance, and they have all of the accoutrements that you would think of that are part of a good life. And then you have people that would like to have some power. And if the people with power block out everybody else with themselves, people will find a way to get around it, if you will. I mean, Lloyd Blankfein, this was back in the last decade, he was the chairman of Goldman Sachs. He said, we know how to create wealth, we just don't know how to distribute it. And as we go to more stratified, is, 7, 8 companies that make up X percent of the S&P or whatever it is, it's going to get worse. And if you don't do something and correct it and try to balance it out, and this is all happening, by the way, at 4% unemployment. Could you imagine what it's going to look like in 6.5% unemployment? So the people should be outraged at what we've done at our tax code. They should be outraged about how we don't give opportunity, and how we build more prisons and we build classrooms or any of the stuff you want to go through. There's a lot to be outraged about, a lot.
So what is the solution for Democrats? You've always maintained it's the economy, stupid. That was your sort of brilliant catchphrase, and yet the Democrats seem to move away from that. What happened, and how do they get it back?
Well, I think they did start moving back in the last election. I think Spanberger, I think Cheryl, and Freddie Mondami, that's all he talked about. So you're right. The party got, I don't know what happened. People lost their minds with this identity walk stuff. I wish somebody would explain it to me one day. I mean, it was so stupid, and it was so sticky. The language just kind of debunked you, no matter how, you couldn't wash the stench off. But what Democrats can do, when we talk about cost issues, affordability, and inflation, cost of living, whatever you want to call it, we always talk about what can we do to get the price down? Well, there's also another way that you can deal with this. There's another tool in the toolkit, and that's try to get wages up. All right? We have so you could raise the minimum wage, like it's been done in, 15 years or more than that, maybe. And people said, well, I don't know how many people get there. Well, okay, but you're telling people we see you. Who's going to live on $8 an hour? And then a lot of companies take pride in the fact, well, we pay $4 or $5 above the minimum wage. Well, great. If the minimum wage is 8 and you're paying 13, well, the minimum wage is 15 and you're paying 19. Our people need a raise. They need lower prices, but they need a raise also. And prices are not going to come down. If the inflation rate goes to 0, the price is still baked there. You see what I'm saying? It's just different. It doesn't cost $1, it costs $1.50. And you stop all inflation, well, it's still 50 cents more than it was before. And you got to deal with that too, paying people more.
You're calling for a minimum wage of $20. Is that manageable? I mean, I can already hear the mom and pop businesses saying we can't do that. If we have to go to $20 an hour, we're going to have to lose people. Our margins are so thin, we can't do that.
Well, your margins are thin because everybody around you is making $8 an hour. And you're right, if you had to pay $20 an hour, that would go to your bottom line, okay? but you'd be paying people a living wage. By the way, other people would be getting paid $20 an hour, so other people would come in and buy more of your product. I mean, what you're trying to do is say, I can't pay anybody because I'm right here and I'm living with the margin I have and the system I have, which is a very low wage system that we're living in. Well, understand that, but think of the possibility. Remember Henry Ford, for all of his faults, the university didn't tell you the word multitudinous. He was the first person to figure out to tell you people they buy your product.
Right. Okay. Good point. Yeah. Very good point.
So if you worked for Ford, you could actually afford a Ford. What a drastic idea. In this world, it's going to cost, Seattle raised that wage, I don't know, $20 an hour or something, and it was going to cost all the jobs, and it was a doomsday and everything else. Of course, no such goddamn thing happened. California raised theirs. He can't get in and out burger. Every time I go, and the driver picks me up at LAX, and there's one, I guess, on Suburban, I'll say, well, let's stop at In-N-Out. I want to get a burger. Nah, never mind. Line's too long. I've never seen that place where they weren't ringing up the cash register, and they have a higher minimum wage. It's always the excuse. We can't raise taxes on rich people because they might leave. Well, you know what? If you can't pay 40%, carry on. Get out of here. All right? You think of the people that sacrificed this country, that marched and assaulted machine gun nests, that, the Revolutionary War, and you can't pay that? Well, carry your ass, man.
Carry your ass, man. I love that expression. Okay, that's a good expression for a Monday. So James, what do you think the tariffs have done to the economy? I mean, some days there are tariffs, other days we're not sure if there are tariffs. It's making very difficult for businesses to manage. What are your thoughts on the tariffs?
I don't think tariffs. I think the weight and authority is that they're not. Don't work very well. And some people claim that if you're limited, they can have some values. The economy is really big, okay? And the amount that the tariffs affect is probably not as big as we think. But, for certain products and certain things, and a lot of them, they're trying to adjust to the higher tariffs. So they put off and ahead inventory, but it's going to kick in more and more. And it doesn't produce the kind of revenue that Trump thinks it produces. It produces some, but not a great deal. And, Democrats have never been a pro-tariff party. And what you just end up hurting it there over a long period of time are agrarian interests, because American agriculture is very much a worldwide product.
Okay, so you mentioned Zoran Mamdani earlier, and he's been utterly focused on the word affordability. We saw him last week, or 10 days ago now, meeting Donald Trump. What was your impression of their meeting? Because I think it surprised a lot of people.
I guess, this is my impression. You have to understand that Trump, everyone gets to my point. I'm not using this just for a way to attack Trump again. Mm-hmm. He doesn't care about anything but himself. All right. About the Republican House majority of Mike Johnson. I think Mike Johnson is a trouser stain to Donald Trump.
Mike Johnson is a trouser stain? How fantastic. You're full of very vibrant images this morning.
So then you have the whole box edifice, so the whole Newsmax, the whole New York Post operation.
Yeah.
It was the noun of urban Mamdani. Everything was Mamdani. These are such as, what are you going to do? You got to. So every time you do. And Trump just stuck the shim in. Okay? Because now, if any Democrat goes on Fox, no, we got to have Trump acting Trump to make a fan in, and I am. But you can, apparently he sees a lot in Mamdani that he likes. I mean, he just completely took the oxygen out of the talking point. Because election night, you'd have never known it was New Jersey or Virginia or anything like that. It was all, the socialists of the world, workers of the world unite or anything. And it was amazing. And it was amazing to see how little about the kind of people that stick with him and how willing he is to knife him, if you will. I think they'll probably learn one day, but I'm going to win.
So In that election that you've just referenced, we had two moderate candidates in Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey and Abigail Spanberger in Virginia. You had Zoran Mamdani speaking a much more, well, he would say he's a democratic socialist, although he frantically seems to be moving to the middle now. What do you think is the future of the actual Democratic Party?
So let's do a little unwrapping here.
Mm-hmm.
It's Madame, because Madame, we have to ask about Madame. Madame is the okay. Let's start with something. The mayor of New York has never been a figure in national politics. Let me repeat. The mayor of New York has never been much of a figure in national politics.
I'm not sure they would all agree with you with that.
They more that went anywhere. A couple tried, they went nowhere. Now, but John Lindsay, Rudy Giuliani, most disgraced person in America. Are you kidding me? LaGuardia? No, I don't think so. So I think New York clocks in about 8 million people, New York City, right? Between New Jersey and Virginia, you're looking, I don't know, probably 17, 18 million people. Right? So why is the obsession with one city? And by the way, what about the Georgia Public Service Commission, the Mississippi State Senate, the Pennsylvania Retention, the California ballot initiative, all of the in upstate New York, there were huge shifts in these county commissions. Well, we must talk about Montgomery because New York is the center of the universe, that nothing else exists in the United States but New York. When in fact, the city of New York is not it's a big player in finance, it's a big player in the theater, it's a big player in the advertising, it's a big player in creativity. One of my favorite cities in the entire world. In fact, I'm going there tomorrow, I can't wait. But you're not the center of the political universe. You're just not. You're not even in a swing. You're not even a swing place. And if it wouldn't be for your money, politicians wouldn't much care about it.
I'm deducting from that you're saying the future of the Democratic Party is going to be moderate.
Right now, the Democratic Party does not have a message. It can't have a message. It doesn't have nominee. It has an argument. These people have to be stopped. We need somebody in the Congress to stand up to. That argument is going to win you a lot of elections. The only way that you're going to have a message is Democratic voters are going to pick their presidential nominee. That way, the Montgomery people, the socialists can have somebody, the bodies can have somebody, somebody else can have somebody, and sit down and run. And then the commentariat was not picked who's going to lead the party. The actual people who voted the party primaries are going to pick the big person who's going to lead the party, who should be the most important people and are the most important people. Now, what we do know for a fact that in this century, since I maybe 72, but maybe not even yet, the Democrats never picked the most left candidate, ever. Right? That gets in the way of the storyline because New York has to be central to the story, right? Mondami has to be central to the story. But I'm not to the thing. Mondami in New York got 50%. 50. I think it's 50.5 to be fair. They were like 58. 50% for the Democratic nominee is not a blow you away number at all.
No, but Mamdani was up against an establishment Democrat in Andrew Cuomo who fought as an independent, right?
So he still couldn't get much above 50.
But James, it was the biggest voter turnout since the late 60s.
It's great. This great is New York City. It's not anything else.
Okay.
How can I tell you that you're not the center of the political universe in the United States?
Oh, that's very disappointing to me. This is a brutal Monday morning.
Terribly disappointing. Because this is story we want to report on. This is not the story. We don't want to talk about the minimum wage. We don't want to talk about electricity prices. We don't want to talk about Spanberg or Sherrill. We don't want to talk about the Georgia. We want to talk about New York City. And we will talk about New York City and nothing else because that is all that interests us.
It's a great point, except that Donald Trump didn't invite, or perhaps Abigail Spanberger and Micah Sherrill were turned down, but they didn't go and talk to him. And that's what was interesting about the development.
I thought it was very interesting. I did, and I thought that, again, what I said earlier, Trump just he just stabbed every right-wing person because Nadami was going to be the billionaire. But we spent 60% of the show talking about Nadami.
You have said that the Democratic Party has a fantastic bench of potential future leaders. You analysed very early on that Bill Clinton was an early leader and was going to win, and you hitched your wagon to him. Who would you hitch your wagon to with the current bench?
First of all, if I do that, I always forget somebody, and I know everybody will forget that. And I've just come to realize, if you just look around, and when you see it, you're going to see a talent level, the likes of which I've never seen in my life in a single party. And some of them are not even going to run for president. I mean, let me give you two. Probably will run for president one day. I don't know about 2028. Ragin Cajun and Alyssa Slack. Mm-hmm. I mean, these are people are so talented or a completely different level than you can imagine. But there's all kinds of, we got terrific people that go run for president. I hope they all run. I talked to a lot of them, and I said, man, for God's sakes, get out there and run. There are more people that we have run. And Vice President Harris wants to get in, get in. Everybody's going to hand it to you. That was the stupidest thing we ever did, was not try to get some kind of a contested process underway in 2024. The mistakes we made over the summer of 2024, which some of the worst that any political party has ever made in the history of the United States.
And do you mean because Joe Biden didn't step down early enough? Do you mean because he just anointed Kamala?
Let's go through the timeline. Mm-hmm. Myself, and to be fair, some other people, we're the only one, but a few people kept saying, we shouldn't be doing this. We shouldn't be doing this. Biden's too old. Probably knows it is too late. Then there was a fundraiser, famously, in early June of 2024. There, George Clooney said, okay, I've seen the light. Rob Reimer, who is one of my good friends, a big critic, well, I've seen the light, okay. And then, so on June of 27th, we had this catastrophic debate. There's no other word that you could use to describe it. And so the heat comes up, and Pelosi, Schumer go to see him. And then on the 21st, that we've already gone through this agony from June the 27th. Now we're sitting for the first. He says, I'm getting out, and I want it to be Harris. And Jamie Harrison was trying to avoid Obama's phone call because I think it was Jamie, somebody was trying to avoid Obama's phone call because Obama was going to say, yeah, we need to figure a way to have this thing contested. They were bragging to Harris people, basically, we shut down any of this contested convention shit. Yeah, you did, and you shut down any chance of us winning the election. And what I said, I'll stick with it. If we'd have done this, we'd have won by 5 points. That President Obama and President Clinton should pick 6, 7, 8 candidates and hold 4 town halls around the country. Mm-hmm. In over Chicago and have an open convention and have some drama. You could have done that. But they shut down any opportunities the Democrats had to pick somebody that they wanted. And given that, we only lost by 1.7%. It actually picked up a House seat. The press overreaction to the death of the Democratic Party, oh my God, what's going to happen, was like comical. And now that everybody's trying to figure out what to do because, well, maybe the Hispanics are not gone. What happened? Oh my God, we reported that the Democrats lost all the Hispanics. Then it comes back, well, they really did. And then the Democrats lost all the young people, but they really didn't. And so now everybody has got to cover up every asinine thing they said post the 2024 election. And we're going to win big. We're winning everything like really big, and we're going to continue to do that. And Trump, the power is going out of Trump about a minute. You can just feel it oozing out. Now, sometimes the last people to know that are the people that are closest to it. But his numbers, they're in a catastrophic position. Remember, we still have these healthcare subsidies coming. Mm-hmm. And it's still going to have a vote on January the 31st. Who knows what's going to happen? And, Mike Johnson, he can't do anything. I mean, he's pathetic to begin with, and Trump loves humiliating. I think he likes to do is get Mike Johnson and Lindsey Graham and then just slap them around. I think he enjoys it. And maybe they enjoy it too, for all I know.
What did you think about the resignation of Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia?
I think that, first of all, that when those survivors of the Maxwell and Epstein, which I was women congressmen, I think it affected her. I mean, you can have really kind of weird politics, but that is I think she was affected by that. I think she figured out that Trump, she was sort of the first one, maybe she's a little smarter, better antenna. He doesn't care about me. What am I doing here? I've given my whole sense of loyalty, I've given my self-respect, I've given everything in service to this person, and he doesn't give a shit about me. And the other thing is, I know that congressional district is Northwest Georgia, and there's a lot of people that need health insurance subsidies. To put it in my way, it's not particularly diverse. There's not a particularly affluent part of the country, and probably the combination of that is of being affected by these survivors, of realizing that this Trump loyalty is a one-way street, and seeing real damage come to them. Don't we have any doubt that she likes to feed people in a congressional district?
And what do you think about the Epstein files? Do you think that's had a serious impact on Donald Trump?
I mean, yeah, because there's the reason is a belief, or I might add, pretty correct, that there's different set of rules for powerful people, and that they get away with stuff, and they get away with sexual exploits or tax avoidance or things like that, or they cut line. There's they had a world, the rest of us have a world. And this story fit perfectly into that narrative, and furthermore, it fit perfectly into a right-wing narrative, where they've been telling people that there was this cabal of sex traffickers that were trafficking young women. Going to end up being one of the escort in the middle of it. But they're not going to let it go, and no one's going to let it go because the story is too good.
And your old boss, Bill Clinton, and the former First Lady Hillary Clinton have been subpoenaed by Donald Trump or by his DOJ. Do you think they're going to show up?
I have to ask David Kendall.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't mean to be flippant about it, but I know that lawyer, and he's a good one.
Okay. All right. So finally, James, where do you think the next year finds us? I mean, we seem to have Trump distancing himself from his head of the Department of War, Pete Hegseth, over what's happening in the Caribbean with the Department of War bombing little boats and saying that, he only thought it was going to be bombed once and, blah, blah, blah. Do you see this all imploding for Donald Trump at this point?
People, at the end of the day, people look at things, people like order. If they don't want to beat people up on the streets, that don't mind, they like having level of immigration, all right? But when they see disorder, they blame, and Trump's, it was so dominant, reminds you so much that he's in charge, okay? So they're going to blame him. And look around the world. Look at Ukraine, the Middle East, the Caribbean. Look at what's happening on city streets in Washington, D.C., and his young guardsmen, they're tragically being shot down. Everywhere you look, there's disorder. You have the volatility in the stock market, and people are just like, who's in charge out there? And that's what, and that was sort of Trump's brand, was that, hey, I'll bring order. They may have to be a little extreme in doing it, but what he brought is just massive confusion, massive disorder, and the public has turned on him. It turned on him decisively. And, you see this the Epstein. All right, now it's all the shooting of these survivors on the gun barrel. That's the oldest law of the sea that exists. Is you don't torpedo people who are clinging on for dear life. I mean, how many times you see a World War II movie where the Germans would, surface and then, machine gun down the sailors of these cargo ships that were coming over. You were outraged. Like, oh my Lord, you let them freeze to death, but don't shoot them. So it's something that people can understand. This is not abstract use of military power, nighttime raid. These are some people clinging to a board in the middle of the ocean that we just went out and shot again. And the same thing with the Epstein files. He's caught in some pretty human dramas, and then you have the whole FBI, Kash Patel, taking a 757 to see his girlfriend, take his girlfriend to some concert. I mean, I don't see how this gets better for them. I really don't. Maybe there's a way, but it is very difficult for me to see it.
Well, James, I think you're bringing order to the Democratic Party.
Well, you can't bring it down. People have to go bring order to the Democratic Party or the people that vote in the Democratic primaries in 2028. And if history is any guide, and I suspect it will be right, Southern blacks will determine the future of the party. They always did. In 92, they were the people that really nominated us. We did win New Hampshire. Same thing was true with President Obama. Same thing was true with President Biden. It all came down to the South, and in the Democratic Party, a lot of our voters in the South are black, and they very wisely pick candidates, and they don't go for the shiny object. There's an expression, and it said they're looking for a candidate that's walk the walk, not one that talks the talk. Mm-hmm. And so look at who's walked the walk, and I'm sure we're going to do pretty good.
All right. Well, James, thank you very much for joining us. Always good to hear your point of view and your phrases. Mike Johnson, a trouser stain. Thank you very much. We will see you soon.
Thank you.
So there you have it. Mike Johnson, a trouser stain. I don't know whose trousers he was a stain on, but what an image to leave you with. And of course, James Carville at 81 is ahead of the pack. Oxford says that the word of the year is rage bait, and James says it's actually economic rage. Economic rage for the Democratic Party. That is the solution to the midterms. If you have been, thank you for joining us. Please subscribe to the Daily Beast podcast and let us know what you think. Leave us a comment, leave us a review. We love to hear from you. Don't forget, very important, to be Beast, and don't forget to subscribe to the Daily Beast podcast, and you can join our community by clicking the button below. We have some new Be Beast level members. I'm going to read out their names. So big thank you to Sandra Clark, Me Thinks, Travels with Carl, Andrew Beaver, Capinator, Harry Clark, Dawn McCarthy, Daniel Doglover, M. Greiner, Fulvia Orlando, Herbie, Andrew Mellor, or Mellor, as Michael always says, Laz Conde, Bonzo, Val Love, Francisco, Andrea Hodel, Bocock DC, Sharon Shipley, Connie Rutherford, Karen White, and Heidi Riley. And again, don't forget, be Beast. And a big thank you to our team, Devon Rogerino, Anna von Ursen, and our editor, Jessie Millward.